I'm just thinking, you're 19 and suddenly from obscurity...
Yeah, overnight.
I mean, it's overnight stardom.
Yeah.
And you're 19 years old.
Yeah.
Must have been an amazing feeling.
Oh, it was incredible. One of the best days of my life. Very hectic directly after it for a few years. But my brother did Eurovision the year before, and he was in a band called Prima Donna, and they came second. So I kind of knew what was going to happen.
Yeah.
And I was brought into a showbiz family. So when we were kids... we kind of had a bet, and we both wanted to win Eurovision when I was about 9.
Did you really?
Yeah. I don't think he's ever forgiven me, but my brother came second, so...
So suddenly stardom, and you had that hit record, you had other successes.
Yeah, it was huge hits, yeah.
And you sold, how many, millions of records?
Millions of records.
And you had fame.
Yeah.
How did you cope with that?
Well, I think I was a bit young, I have to say. I think Mike and Cheryl and Bobby, being that bit older, probably coped with it differently. But I had been brought into a showbiz family.
Yeah, you said.
So my dad was a comic. And so my whole childhood was, if I wasn't at school, I was on the side of a stage. Or we were, working on scripts or costumes or choreography. So it was quite natural to me. And I was gigging when I was 14, going to school and then doing shows. So... it was just a bit of fun, and I never really thought we'd win.
No.
3 minutes to change your life, that's what they said to you, and we did.
But that makes it even better.
Working off of it now, 40 years on.
But off the back of that, and selling, Land of Make-Believe and the things you did then, I mean, you should have made a fortune.
We should have.
What happened? What went wrong?
We had a terrible deal. We had a really bad deal. In fact, when we first met, we went to see a lawyer, and we couldn't afford a proper lawyer, so we went to Equity, our union.
Yep.
And the guy there read the contract and went, it's not very good. It changed like one or two things. But then when I left the band years later, we found out that he wasn't a proper lawyer. So we signed this contract, which looked like it could run for sort of 2 or 3 years, but it had the potential to run for 20 years. So your whole career.
Yeah.
On a 3-minute song. And so, yeah, it was... but, I mean, it was still a wonderful experience.
Yeah, no, I'm sure it was. And it was all going wonderfully well, and you were touring the country.
Yeah.
And then the first of several things I think that we share in common in terms of life experience.
Yeah.
There's an horrendous crash, isn't there?
Yes, absolutely. That was terrible. Christmas 1984, we just started a tour. It was the second night, and we were in Newcastle. And the next night, we were meant to make it to Wembley. Never made it to Wembley. So on the way back, we're just going back to the hotel after the gig, sold-out tour, and we hit this lorry. And it had steel on it, so it was literally like hitting a wall. And Mike Nolan was particularly badly injured. I mean, most of the roof came off of the vehicle. Mm. And so many of the musicians were hurt as well. And it changed our lives. In fact, it was that really made me decide to leave the band. Because there was always friction, you see, but within the band. And it just felt like someone was saying, that's the end, it's finished. Mike Nolan had the last rites read over him, so I couldn't see a future. And he was terribly badly injured, and it's taken him decades, really, to recover. But he has done an incredible job, he is quite remarkable, and we're still gigging, so... But it was tragic.
So literally, I mean, the world's going wonderfully well and suddenly it's a disaster. You said there were frictions within the band before the crash, but there are frictions in every band, aren't there?
Well, always, yes. I mean, we were a manufactured band, one of the first, and that has its problems. And the thing is, Mike and Cheryl were very close, and Bobby was that bit older, and they would always disagree, and I would be the floating vote. So I think with all bands, it's difficult, and it's also the workload you're dealing with, and all the travelling and all of that, and the egos, of course. Mm.
Yeah, so, which is going to happen, but bands can still get on. I mean, they can still go on for years and years and years, despite those difficulties and despite those tensions. But this was a very, very dramatic end for you, and you were lucky, perhaps, not to be more seriously hurt, frankly. Yes, I mean, I hit... it's a silly story, but I always say Tangerine saved my life. I was sat at the front of the van, of the coach, and I wanted to go up the back to the loo, and there was this fruit rolling about. So I picked the fruit up because it was all going on over on the side. And as I picked the fruit up, I saw my manager and I went, "Oh, can I have a word?" And I heard someone say, "We're going to hit that." And so literally, if I hadn't been tidying,
I would have been in a different position. I'd have been up the front, or I'd have been in the bathroom area where the main girder of the coach would have literally gone right straight through me. So it's all those split-second decisions that change your life.
Bits of luck. Now, that amazing 3 minutes that you had, and you weren't the only British people ever to win it. But, I mean, Eurovision now, I was joking in the intro before the break, I think we should leave. It's time to leave the Eurovision Song Contest. But, I mean, it would appear, even before Brexit, that a lot of countries out there just don't like us. It doesn't seem to matter how good or bad the British act is. The vast TV audience, I mean, and I used to tune into it every year. And, you know, when Terry Wogan was doing it, he was absolutely
brilliant. I really missed him.
And a lovely sense. Delightful
man.
Delightful man.
Yeah.
Delightful man. But we're doing, I mean, the whole thing's rigged against us, isn't it? We've got no more chance in Eurovision than we had in the European Union.
Not sure. I'm not sure about that. I mean, there's always been political voting, and because there's so many different countries now, you know, there's so many different tastes and flavours. So I think it's very, very hard to win that competition. And I think what we're doing is wrong if we don't make enough effort.
We're coming last.
Oh, it was horrendous. I was so embarrassed. I was so like, how can we come last? I mean, but we obviously aren't putting in the right thing. We're not putting in the right song and the right artist. And I do think we could do better. I don't think we could win, but I do think we could end up on the right side of the leaderboard.
Well, it seems to me for the last few years, the political voting has been extraordinary, loaded against us in the most ridiculous way. I mean, I just think we're whistling in the wind with it. But you still think that we should pursue it?
I really think anything that brings that amount of people together to listen to music and have a bit of fun and enjoy themselves, I think it's a good thing. I think it's a positive thing.
But it's making the country angry.
I think loads of people still love it. I don't think we should pull out, really. I just think we need to put in a good song. And I've actually got a confession to make. I've put a song in this year.
Right.
I don't know what's going to happen.
OK.
I just thought, why, you know, because I often go on and say, look, we're not doing well enough. So I tried to write a song and tried to come up with a concept. And I've entered it, but I have no idea what will happen with it. Okay. It might not see the light of day.
Well, when it comes to the Eurovision, you're clearly a Remainer.
Yes, totally. But wasn't on Brexit.
But when it came to the European Union, you were very much a leaver, weren't you?
Yes, indeed, I was. I wasn't happy being told that we'd made a mistake when there.
So is that what politicised you?
Well, no. I mean, I just thought I wasn't happy with the way things have been going for quite a few years. But ultimately, it was about democracy, wasn't it? You know, you can't really lose that.
And that's why you got involved with the Brexit Party, because of that, to sort of get it back on course.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of people don't like me for doing that, and it wasn't, you know, it's a very divisive whole situation. But what I thought ultimately, you know, I haven't been happy with things that have been going on for years, but ultimately, if you have a clear winning side and then you tell them you got it wrong, vote again, try and overturn that.
It was disgusting, wasn't it?
I thought it was just wrong.
Yeah. Like, I think Jay, I think we'll look back in 100 years' time over that period between 2016 for the next sort of 3.5 years as being one of the most shameful periods of our democratic history. I mean, I really, really do. And how do you see it now with Boris?
Ooh. I really don't know how he's going to get out of this one. People are really upset. They're really... I think they're a bit dumbfounded that there was obviously a rule for them and a rule for us. And there's a lot of anger on the streets. I mean, people have been through an absolute nightmare. They've lost their businesses. I've personally lost 2 cousins and a good friend, and I couldn't go to the funeral. And then you sort of think, they're having a party at that time.
And that's where the anger is.
And it's understandable, yeah.
Yeah, I think it's that, and I think it's also a feeling we're not being told the truth. You know, rather than when they're caught putting their hands up, they're just not doing it. So there is a lot of anger out there in the country, a lot of frustration. And you said you lost family members, but you've had your own health issues, haven't you, over the last couple of years, which, again, rather like me, another thing we have in common, you've had a battle with cancer. Yeah.
It was 3 years ago now. I was just having a routine dental check. A few years before I got ill, I had this sort of white little patch come up on my tongue, and it was literally a regular check. And they were kind of keeping an eye on it, but suddenly it changed. So it went from pre-cancer from 1 biopsy to cancer in just 3 weeks. So that's why they've had to do a much bigger operation. So they've removed the bottom of my tongue. They sort of went in here and they took a piece of my leg off.
Gosh.
So that's But it did run a marathon, so I'm hoping it'll be pretty good in the future. But yeah, I've had to learn to sing and talk, obviously. And it's been a bit of a long recovery, longer than I anticipated. But I'm here, and
you're looking well.
I'm enjoying life, and it does change you having cancer. I'm sure you had the same.
Yeah, I was very young. I was 21 when it happened to me. But you know, I mean, it does make you a lot more thoughtful.
Yeah, it gives you a different perspective.
As a person. So you've got through that. And then you had a bad attack of COVID, I understand, as well.
Yes, I did. Well, my daughter got it, but she didn't really have symptoms. And then my husband got it terribly. I was very worried about him. And then I caught it. And, of course, I was only just, you know, fairly soon after recovery.
You were obviously weakened, in a sense, weren't you, I guess, by what you'd been through before.
Yes. I think if anyone's had cancer, they do struggle with energy. So it's always been that my energy, I have to be really careful about what I do.
Horrific. And from the sounds of it, the operation you went through was a really, really major operation.
Yeah, it was 7 hours. Yeah.
Gosh.
And my surgeons, though, I mean, they're amazing what they can do today. So I thank the good old NHS.
Yeah, but they're so... I mean, we've got 6 million people now waiting for operations.
Yeah.
People who've got money going privately. Yeah. I mean, it is very, very difficult indeed, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, they're overrun. They need... I mean, it's always... There's always been a problem with the NHS, one thing after another. And then, obviously, this has just been horrendous.
So you've got a song in for this year's Eurovision. You're back to health. So what next?
Oh, well, the Fizz recorded a new album, which is our fourth with Mike Stock, producer from Stock Aitken and Waterman. And we're just awaiting the final mixes. So it's quite an eclectic mix, so it should be quite an interesting album. So we'll be promoting that. And we're going back to gigs. They're coming back. And that tour that we had to cancel, which was ironically called Up Close and Personal.
Right.
Went, of course. But now we're just trying to... The ones that survived, anyway, the gigs that weren't cancelled. So we're just finishing that tour. Right.
Well, as I say, you know, major road traffic accident, cancer, Brexit party. Our daughters were at school together. Jay Aston, we've got quite a lot in common. Big thank you to you for coming in and joining me on
my
Talking
pleasure.
Pints.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.